Most people do not lose themselves all at once. It happens slowly, through small compromises repeated over time. A decision made against your conscience, a lie told for convenience, silence in moments that required honesty, choices made only to gain acceptance. At first, it feels harmless, temporary, easy to justify. But every action leaves something behind inside the mind. And after enough compromises, people begin feeling disconnected from themselves without fully understanding why. Now think about this honestly. Have you ever made a decision that looked correct externally, but felt wrong internally? Nobody questioned it. Nobody criticized it. Everything seemed normal on the outside. Still, something inside felt heavy afterward. Because human beings can hide many things from the world. But escaping your own conscience is much harder. And this is where character becomes important. Character is not revealed only during huge moments. It appears in silent decisions, in situations where nobody would discover the truth, in moments where doing the wrong thing would be easier. Because integrity is not built publicly, it is built privately. Now pay attention to this carefully. Modern culture constantly pressures people to become flexible with their values, to adapt everything for comfort, to change principles for approval, to sacrifice honesty for temporary advantage. And little by little, many start treating character like something negotiable. But there is a dangerous consequence to that. Every repeated compromise weakens self-respect. Every action against your own conscience creates internal conflict. At first, the discomfort feels strong. Later, the mind begins creating excuses. Eventually, some people stop feeling anything at all. That is the dangerous stage, when the conscience becomes quiet, when wrong behavior starts feeling normal, when someone no longer recognizes how far they moved away from their original values. And this happens more often than people realize. Now think about this deeply. What is the value of external success if you lose peace within yourself? What is the value of approval if you stop respecting who you are becoming? Because no amount of validation can fully silence a conscience that knows the truth. This is why protecting your character matters so much. Not for appearances, not to impress others, but because you must live with yourself every single day. And nothing becomes heavier than realizing you slowly abandoned your own principles just to fit into the world around you. One of the biggest illusions in modern life is this. Looking successful is not the same as being whole internally. Today, many people spend more time protecting their image than protecting their character. They carefully manage appearances. They say the right things. They build impressive versions of themselves for the world to see. But internally, many feel disconnected, exhausted, and emotionally restless. Because deep inside, the conscience always recognizes truth, and truth cannot be hidden forever. Now think about this carefully. How many people seem confident externally while secretly struggling with guilt, emptiness, or internal conflict? How many look successful online while feeling lost privately? How many sacrifice their own principles just to gain approval, attention, or temporary advantages? This is what happens when image becomes more important than integrity. The outside may still look strong, but something inside slowly weakens. And over time, that internal weakness affects everything. Confidence becomes fragile. Peace disappears. Authenticity fades. Because real self-respect cannot exist while someone constantly betrays their own conscience. Now pay attention to this carefully. Your character is revealed most clearly when nobody is watching. Not when cameras are on, not when applause is guaranteed, not when there is something to gain. True integrity appears in hidden moments, when honesty costs something, when loyalty becomes inconvenient, when doing the right thing requires sacrifice. That is where character becomes real, and this is exactly why strong character has become rare today. Many people adapt themselves to every environment around them. They change values depending on who is present. They change behavior depending on what benefits them most. They become different versions of themselves everywhere they go. But eventually that creates exhaustion. Because pretending constantly drains emotional energy. And little by little, people stop knowing who they really are anymore. This is why character creates stability. When your values remain strong, your identity becomes stronger too. You stop needing constant approval. You stop changing yourself for acceptance. You stop abandoning your conscience just to belong somewhere. And that changes the entire way you move through life. If this message is making you reflect differently, subscribe to the channel. The next videos will continue exploring mindset, discipline, integrity, and the deeper truths shaping modern life. Now remember this, a strong image may impress people temporarily, but strong character creates something far more valuable: peace within yourself. Most people believe character is destroyed through one huge mistake. That is rarely how it happens. The real damage usually comes from small compromises repeated over time. Tiny decisions, quiet excuses, moments where convenience becomes more important than conscience. And because those moments seem small, people underestimate their impact. But repetition changes identity. Now think about this carefully. Every time someone ignores their own values, something shifts internally. Not always dramatically, not immediately, but gradually. The mind adapts. The conscience becomes quieter, and eventually behaviors that once felt wrong begin feeling normal. This is how people slowly lose themselves without realizing it. Not through one catastrophic decision, through consistent compromise. And modern life encourages this constantly. People are taught to prioritize comfort over integrity, approval over honesty, short-term rewards over long-term self-respect. The pressure to fit in has become stronger than the desire to stay authentic for many people. But there is always a cost, because every repeated compromise weakens trust within yourself. And self-trust matters more than most people understand. When you stop trusting your own standards, discipline weakens too. Confidence weakens. Inner peace weakens. Because deep inside, you know when your actions no longer align with your values. And no external validation can fully erase that feeling. Now pay attention to this carefully. The strongest people are not always the loudest. Often they are simply the most consistent with their principles. They stay honest even when lying would be easier. They stay loyal even when betrayal would benefit them. They stay grounded even when pressure pushes them to change. And over time, that consistency creates enormous internal strength. Because every time you protect your principles, you reinforce your identity. You remind yourself who you are. You strengthen your ability to trust your own decisions. You build a life that feels aligned instead of divided internally. That kind of peace is becoming rare today. Most people are exhausted because they are constantly performing different versions of themselves for different environments, different personalities, different values, different masks. Eventually, that becomes emotionally draining. Because human beings were never designed to live disconnected from their own conscience for long periods of time. So remember this. Character is not built in one moment. It is built through repeated decisions, quiet decisions, invisible decisions, daily decisions. And over time, those choices become the person you eventually see in the mirror. One of the most dangerous things a person can do is abandon their values just to avoid rejection. And this happens constantly. People change the way they speak, the way they think, the way they behave. Not because they truly changed internally, but because they fear being excluded. Fear is powerful. The fear of being disliked, the fear of disappointing others, the fear of standing alone. And because of that fear, many begin shrinking themselves little by little. At first, it seems harmless. Small compromises, small silences, small moments of pretending. But eventually, those moments become habits. And habits slowly shape identity. Now think about this honestly. How many people are living lives that no longer feel authentic? How many smile publicly while feeling disconnected privately? How many lost their sense of self trying to fit into environments that never truly respected them? This is the hidden cost of abandoning your character for acceptance. The outside may look peaceful, but internally conflict grows, because human beings cannot consistently betray themselves without emotional consequences. The mind feels it, the conscience feels it, the body feels it, even when nobody else notices. That is why some people feel emotionally exhausted all the time, not because life is always difficult, but because pretending constantly drains energy. Wearing masks drains energy. Suppressing your real values drains energy. Now pay attention to something important. Strong character often requires temporary discomfort. Sometimes honesty creates tension. Sometimes integrity creates loneliness. Sometimes standing by your principles makes people uncomfortable. But losing yourself creates something far worse: internal emptiness. Because once someone starts abandoning their own conscience repeatedly, self-respect slowly disappears. And without self-respect, external approval never feels fully satisfying. This is why emotionally strong people stop chasing acceptance from everyone. They understand something most people never learn. Not every environment deserves access to your identity. Not every group deserves your loyalty. Not every relationship deserves your silence. Sometimes protecting your peace requires walking away from places that constantly pressure you to become someone you are not. And that takes courage, real courage, because staying authentic in a world obsessed with approval has become rare. But rare qualities create powerful lives. So remember this: the people who stay true to themselves may lose temporary approval, but they gain something much more valuable: the ability to look at themselves honestly without shame, regret, or internal conflict. At the end of the day, almost everything in life changes. Money changes, status changes, relationships change, opinions change. But one thing stays with you through every stage of life: your conscience. And eventually, every person faces the same quiet question: did I stay true to myself? That question carries more weight than most people realize, because external success means very little when someone loses peace internally. A person can gain admiration from the world and still feel empty alone at night. A person can achieve recognition and still feel disconnected from who they became in the process. This is why character matters so much, not because perfection is possible. Nobody is perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone experiences weakness. The real difference is whether someone continues protecting their principles or slowly stops caring about them. Because there is a dangerous point where people become emotionally numb to their own compromises. Life stops feeling heavy. Dishonesty feels normal. Convenience becomes more important than truth. And once someone reaches that stage, identity begins collapsing silently. Now think about this carefully. The strongest people are not those who never fail. They are the ones who refuse to abandon their conscience completely. The ones who keep correcting themselves. The ones who still care about integrity, even when nobody else notices. The ones who protect their principles, even when life becomes uncomfortable. That is real strength. Not image, not performance, not popularity. Real strength is remaining whole inside a world constantly trying to reshape you. And that requires awareness every single day. Because modern life rewards distraction. It rewards performance. It rewards appearance. But deep peace only exists when your actions remain aligned with your values. That alignment creates stability, clarity, self-respect, and those things become priceless over time. So remember this: your character is one of the few things in life that truly belongs to you. Protect it carefully. Strengthen it daily. Do not trade it for temporary approval, convenience, or short-term rewards. Because eventually the world becomes quiet, and when that moment comes, you will not be living with public opinions. You will be living with yourself. Character is not built during easy moments. It is built during pressure, during temptation, during the silent decisions nobody else sees. Every day, life gives people small opportunities to compromise their values for comfort, approval, or temporary advantage. And little by little, those decisions shape identity. That is why character is never truly lost in one moment. It is either protected daily or weakened daily. Now think about this carefully. The world may reward appearance for a while. It may reward performance. It may reward people who adapt themselves to every situation. But none of that creates real peace internally. Because deep down, your conscience always knows the truth. And nothing becomes heavier than realizing you slowly abandoned yourself just to fit into environments that never deserved your authenticity in the first place. This is why protecting your principles matters so much. Not for perfection, not to impress others, but because self-respect is built through alignment between your values and your actions. And once someone develops that alignment, something powerful happens. The mind becomes calmer, decisions become clearer, confidence becomes stronger, because there is no longer constant internal conflict. So stay honest, stay grounded, stay loyal to your principles, even when the world encourages shortcuts. Because temporary approval disappears quickly, but character shapes the entire quality of your life over time. If this video made you reflect differently, subscribe to the channel. There's much more ahead about discipline, mindset, integrity, self-respect, and the hidden truths shaping modern life today. And remember this one last time. Your character is not negotiable, because once someone loses themselves completely, no external success can truly replace what was lost inside.